Hey guys, it's Emily and today I'm going to be doing a Smokey Halo Eye tutorial on my sister. I'm first starting off with the eyes and I'm going to be going in with this Simply eyeshadow primer. I'm going to be using this to cancel out any discoloration on her eyelids and to also make sure that all the eyeshadows I put on top will stay on all day. I'm then going in with our single eyeshadows and I'm going to be first going in with this shade called Beaches and Cream. I'm going to be using this shade to set down the eyeshadow primer and to also make sure that any eyeshadows I put on top don't go on blotchy and don't look patchy. I'm then going in with this shade. It's in the shade Creme Brulee, and I'm just going to be taking this on a fluffy crease brush. I'm just going to be putting this in her crease just to give her crease some dimension and also add a transition shade. I'm then going to be going in with this shade. It's in the shade Frappe. I'm also going to be going in with this shade. It's in the shade Cocoa Bear. And I'm just going to be taking this on a more dense crease brush. I'm just going to be putting that more in the crease just to give her eyes a little bit more dimension. As you can see, it's a little bit of a darker brown. I like to mix these two just to make sure that I get a darker color to give my eye or her eye a little bit more dimension. And then I'm also be going in with this shade. It's in the shade Bitten. I'm going to be going in with a pencil brush. I'm just going to be putting this in the outer corner. You'll also see right here on this eye, I kind of tried winging it out. I really have no idea what I was trying to achieve there, but I really don't think I kept it in the end. But I'm also going to be taking this shade in the inner part of the eye to kind of get that halo effect. So I'm going to have Bitten on the outer corner of the eye and the inner corner of the eye. I'm then going in with this shade. It's one of our foiled eyeshadows and it's in the shade Starry Eyed. And I'm just going to be taking that on a flat eyeshadow brush. I'm just going to be putting that in the center of her eye. As you can see, it kind of, I don't know, it's kind of like dramatic. I don't know really how to explain it, but I think it's really pretty. I'm really bad at explaining things. I'm sorry. And then I'm going to be taking this black eyeshadow. It's in the shade Corrupt. And I'm going to be taking it on a kind of like a flat eyeliner brush. And I'm just going to be putting it at the root of her eyelashes to kind of make her eyelashes look a little bit more thick. And I'm also adding it to add a little bit more smokiness. I didn't want to go in with eyeliner because I thought it was going to be too harsh. And I just kind of like the effect that just a black eyeshadow gives rather than an eyeliner. Next for the face, I'm going to be priming her face with this Simply face primer. I'm just going to be putting that all over her face with this little tiny flat foundation brush. It's a lot smaller than a foundation brush, which is why I used it to prime her face. I'm just going to be putting this on so that it kind of smooths her skin out for foundation and also make sure that all the face makeup that I put on top lasts longer. And then I'm going to be using our foundation and I'm just going to be dotting it all over her face on the back of one of my brushes. I'm using foundation to cancel out any discoloration that she has on her skin and also to hide any imperfections that she has and just to kind of give her face a little bit more full coverage and make it look flawless. I'm also going to be blending that out with a damp beauty sponge. Sponge, not splunge, sponge. I'm next going in with our concealer, and I'm using a shade that's a couple shades lighter than her skin tone to highlight any high points on her face, her under eye, her chin, her nose, and her forehead, and I'm blending that out with the same damp beauty sponge. Sorry. Next, I'm taking our loose powder to set her concealer so that it doesn't crease. And I'm also setting any places she gets oily with the same damp sponge. And it's in the shade translucent, so it's not going to change the color of her concealer or her foundation because it has no color to it. Then I'm going in with our Stay Matte pressed powder and setting any places I didn't set with that loose powder so that anything I put on top blends nicely and doesn't move. I'm using a big fluffy brush to set the rest of her face. It's also in the shade translucent, so it's not going to change the color of her foundation. Next, I'm going with our bronzer, and I'm going to be using this to warm up the sides of her face and her forehead to give her face some dimension. I really like this shade because it's not too warm and it's not too cool tone, and I think it's the perfect shade to bronze your face with. I'm going back with that same loose powder, and I'm going to be taking that on a more stiff brush, and I'm going to be baking wherever I put the concealer to give her more of a flawless appearance, which is underneath her eyes, her nose, her chin, and her forehead. And it'll also help with her oily skin to make sure that she doesn't get oily throughout the day. Then I'm taking this yellow powder from our contouring palette, and I'm going to be putting that underneath her bronzer to give her more of a contoured appearance with that same beauty sponge, and I'm going to be letting that sit for 5 to 10 minutes. And then I'm going to be using those two brown shades that we put in her crease earlier, and I'm going to be putting those underneath her eyes. Her eyes water super fast, so I just had her close her eyes, and her eyes actually did water a lot, and I had to get a tissue and get all the tears out of her eyes, but as you can see, it was like really bad and it was a major struggle, but now I'm wiping off all that excess powder. And then I'm going to be going in with this highlight and blush duo, and I'm going to be using both the highlight and the blush on my sister today. So I'm just taking that blush, I'll be pointing to it right now, and I'm just putting it on the apples of her cheeks so that when she smiles, she kind of has like a little bit of flush, and just also add a little bit more color. And then I'm going in with this highlighter. This highlighter is actually super pretty, but for some reason it really wasn't showing up on camera, but I'm just highlighting her cheekbones and kind of like her, a little bit above her eyebrow. Oh, and her nose. And then I'm going to be putting some mascara on her upper eyelashes. This was actually really hard because, like I said earlier, her eyes are super duper sensitive and they water really fast, but I did it. Then I'm going to be setting her eyebrows with this clear brow gel so that her eyebrows stay in place all day, even though I didn't fill them in. She doesn't fill in her eyebrows, but I still made sure that they stay in place. Now I'm going to be going in with this lip liner, and I'm just going to be lining the outside of her lips. Doing her lips was actually sort of hard because I was using a darker lipstick, which I use. It's right here. It's in the shade Cherry Bomb, and I went in with a lip brush instead because I thought it would be easier than actually going in with the actual lipstick itself, but I really think that it actually made the whole process a lot harder and it was really, really sloppy, but in the end, we kind of sorted it out. You'll see right now I just kind of took the beauty blender or the beauty sponge, whatever you want to call it, and just kind of cleaned it up with any excess powder and concealer that was on the sponge. And that's it for this Smoky Halo Eye tutorial. And thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you in the other video that I have. Goodbye.